The words hit harder than any physical blow. "Mom, you're losing your mind." I was standing in my own kitchen in Charlotte, North Carolina, holding a mug of chamomile tea. It was a Tuesday morning. The sun was coming through the window over the sink, the kind of soft light that usually made me feel grateful. But that morning, I felt nothing but cold. My daughter Veronica was sitting at the table scrolling through her phone. I had just asked her a simple question. Why is $4,200 missing from my checking account? She didn't even look up. "Mom," she said, her voice flat, "you're confused again." I wasn't confused. I had checked the account 3 times. The withdrawal was real. It was dated 2 weeks ago, and I had never authorized it. "I'm not confused," I said quietly. "I'm asking you a question." That's when she looked up. Her eyes were cold, colder than I'd ever seen them. "Mom, you're losing your mind. You can't even remember what day it is half the time. I think we need to talk about putting you somewhere safe." The mug in my hand felt suddenly heavy. The ceramic was warm, but my fingers were freezing. I stared at her, trying to find my daughter in that face. The little girl I'd raised alone. The one I'd worked 2 jobs for. The one I'd put through college. She wasn't there. "This is the 3rd time money's gone missing," I said. My voice didn't shake. Not yet. Veronica sighed like I was exhausting her. "You probably spent it and forgot. You do that now." "I don't." "Mom." She stood up, putting her phone in her pocket. "I love you, but you need help. And honestly, I think you need to sign over financial power of attorney. For your own protection." The tea in my hand had gone cold. She wanted control. Legal control. Over everything I had left. I didn't say anything. I just watched her walk out of the kitchen, her footsteps confident, unbothered. She thought I was weak. She thought I was losing my grip. If someone's rewriting your reality, you're already behind. Subscribe now. The signs show up early. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, replaying her words over and over. "You're losing your mind. You can't even remember." At 2 a.m., I walked to my dining room. I turned on the lamp. I pulled out a cardboard box I hadn't opened in years, the one with all my old bank statements, tax returns, receipts. I spread them across the table. I had one thought, sharp and clear: document everything. I spread the statements across the table like evidence in a case file, because that's exactly what they were. For 32 years, I worked as a civil court clerk in Mecklenburg County. I filed motions. I tracked case numbers. I organized exhibits for trials. I watched people lose everything because they didn't have proof. They came in with stories, with emotions, with certainty, but no documentation. I wasn't going to make that mistake. I started with the most recent statement and worked backward. September, August, July. I highlighted every withdrawal I didn't recognize, every charge I didn't make. $3,500 in June, marked cash withdrawal. I hadn't been to that bank branch in over a year. $4,200 in August. Same thing, $2,800 in September. My hands were shaking, but I kept going. I pulled out older statements. Last year, the year before. The pattern went back 18 months, small at first, $200 here, $350 there, amounts I might not notice right away. But over time, they got bigger, bolder. I did the math on a piece of scrap paper. In 18 months, over $47,000 had disappeared from my accounts. $47,000. I felt sick. Then I found the checks. They were tucked into an envelope I'd labeled Paid Bills 2023. 3 checks, all made out to cash, all signed with my name, except I hadn't signed them. I held one up to the light. The signature was close, very close, but the loop on the L in Letitia was too wide. The slant was wrong. Veronica had practiced my handwriting. She had forged my signature. She'd been stealing from me for a year and a half. And now she was trying to make me think I was losing my mind so I wouldn't question it. I sat back in my chair, staring at the pile of paper in front of me. My whole body felt numb. Not from shock, from clarity. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a daughter struggling and making bad choices. This was calculated, planned, deliberate. Comment, document, if you've ever had to prove something no one believed. I pulled out a yellow legal pad from the drawer. At the top, I wrote 3 words in capital letters: evidence, witnesses, exit plan. I wasn't going to confront Veronica, not yet. Confrontation without preparation was just noise. I had seen it 100 times in court. People who went in angry and left with nothing. I was going to build a fortress first. I was going to gather every piece of proof. I was going to find people who could confirm what I already knew. And then, when the time was right, I was going to take back my life. Veronica thought I was confused, weak, forgettable. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I realized I hadn't spoken to Darlene in 6 months, not because I didn't want to, because Veronica had made it impossible. Darlene was my best friend. We'd known each other since we were 17. We used to play cards every Thursday night, take turns hosting, laugh until our stomachs hurt. But somewhere along the way, those Thursdays stopped. I tried to remember when. It was after Veronica moved back in. At first, it was small comments. "Mom, didn't you just see Darlene last week? You need to rest." Or, "Darlene's kind of negative, don't you think? I just don't want her stressing you out." Then it was the church visits. I used to go to Sunday service every week. Veronica started saying it was too much for me, that I looked tired, that I should stay home and relax. I thought she was being thoughtful, but she wasn't. She was cutting me off, one person at a time, one routine at a time. I sat at the dining table staring at my phone. I scrolled through my contacts. Darlene's name wasn't there. I felt my chest tighten. I searched again. Slowly this time. My cousin Andre, gone. My friend Brenda from church, gone. Veronica had set up this phone for me 8 months ago. She said it would be easier for me to use. She transferred all my contacts herself, except she didn't transfer all of them. She chose who I was allowed to talk to. Isolation happens quietly. If you're watching someone fade, don't wait. Subscribe to recognize the pattern. I put the phone down and closed my eyes. I thought about the last time I'd left the house without Veronica. The last time I'd driven myself somewhere. The last time I'd made a decision without her helping. I couldn't remember. This wasn't care. This was control. She had slowly, carefully, systematically removed everyone who might notice what she was doing. Everyone who might ask questions. Everyone who might tell me I deserved better. I wasn't losing my mind. I was losing my freedom. And it had been happening so gradually, I hadn't even seen it. I opened my eyes and pulled the yellow legal pad toward me. Under witnesses, I wrote, "Darlene. Find her. Explain everything." But I couldn't use this phone. Veronica probably had access to it. She'd set it up. She'd see the call logs. She'd know. I picked up a pen and added a new line to my list. Get a second phone. One Veronica doesn't know about. My hands were shaking again. But this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from anger. Cold, clear, focused anger. Veronica thought she'd isolated me completely. She was wrong. On a Tuesday morning, I found the smoking gun. A check for $5,800 dated 4 months ago with my signature on it. Except I had never written it. I was going through the box again, deeper this time, pulling out folders I hadn't touched in years. That's when I found the envelope marked Closed Accounts, 2022. Inside were copies of old checks. Most of them were mine, legitimate payments for utilities, insurance, regular bills. But 3 of them stopped me cold. The first one was made out to cash, $5,800. My signature was at the bottom, but I had never written that check. I know my own handwriting. I've signed my name thousands of times, on court documents, on legal filings, on notarized papers. I know the exact pressure I use, the angle of my pen, the way the V in Vaughn curls slightly to the left. This signature was close. But it wasn't mine. I pulled out a real check I'd written last month and laid them side by side. The difference was small, but it was there. The loop on the second T in Letitia was rounder in the forged version. The baseline slant was slightly off. Veronica had practiced. She'd gotten good at it. But she wasn't perfect. I found 2 more forged checks in the envelope. 3 $200, 4th the $100, both made out to cash. Both with my name signed at the bottom in handwriting that was almost, but not quite mine. My stomach turned. She hadn't just stolen from me. She had planned it. She'd sat somewhere, probably in this house, practicing my signature over and over until she could replicate it well enough to fool a bank teller. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't crumple up the checks and throw them across the room. I did what I was trained to do. I documented. I went to the closet and pulled out the old disposable camera I kept for emergencies. I didn't trust my phone. Veronica had access to it. Anything I photographed on that phone, she could delete remotely. But a disposable camera? That was evidence she couldn't touch. I photographed every forged check. I photographed the real check for comparison. I photographed the bank statements showing the withdrawals. I photographed everything. When I was done, I put the film canister in my pocket. Tomorrow, I'd get it developed at the drugstore. I'd make copies. I'd put them somewhere safe. Miss one receipt. Lose the whole case. Subscribe. I'll show you what evidence actually protects you. I placed the checks back in the envelope and returned it to the box. Then I walked to the kitchen. Veronica was sitting at the table, drinking coffee, scrolling through her phone. I smiled at her. "Good morning, sweetheart. Want some breakfast?" She looked up, surprised. Sure. Thanks, Mom." I cracked 2 eggs into the pan, my hands steady. Let her think I'm confused, I thought. Confused people make the best witnesses. Because she had no idea what I knew, and she had no idea what was coming. I waited until Veronica left for her yoga class, the one that always lasted 4 hours and came back smelling like cigarettes and cheap wine. Then I called Darlene. I'd gone to the store the day before and bought a cheap prepaid phone, cash only, no name attached. I activated it in the parking lot and saved exactly 1 number, Darlene's. I found it in an old address book buried in the back of my closet, written in faded blue ink from 15 years ago. I prayed it still worked. It rang 3 times. Then I heard her voice. "Hello?" I almost cried just hearing it. "Darlene," I said, my voice cracking, "it's Letitia." There was a pause, then softly, "Oh, honey, oh my God, I've been so worried about you." The relief hit me like a wave. I sat down on the edge of my bed, gripping the phone. "I'm sorry I haven't called," I said. Things have been... "I know," she said, and her voice was steady, calm, warm, like a lifeline. "Veronica told me you didn't want visitors anymore. She said you were struggling, that you needed space." My jaw tightened. "I never said that." "I didn't think you did," Darlene said quietly. "But every time I tried to call, she answered your phone. She said you were resting, or confused, or not feeling well. After a while, I stopped trying. I'm so sorry, Letitia. I should have pushed harder." "It's not your fault," I said. "She made it impossible. She deleted your number from my phone. She isolated me from everyone." Darlene was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What's happening, Letitia? Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about the missing money, the forged checks, the gaslighting, the accusation that I was losing my mind, the suggestion that I sign over power of attorney. I told her about the 18 months of theft, the $47,000 gone, the way Veronica had slowly, carefully erased my independence until I was trapped in my own home. Darlene listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she didn't tell me I was overreacting. She didn't suggest I talk to Veronica or try to work it out. She said, "Honey, I've been worried about you for months. I knew something was wrong." Hearing those words, I knew something was wrong, broke something open inside me. I started crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, exhausted tears I'd been holding in for too long. "I believe you," Darlene said. "Every word. And I'm going to help you." I wiped my eyes. I don't know what to do. I have evidence, but I don't know where to start. Darlene didn't hesitate. "I know someone," she said. "An attorney in Raleigh who handles cases like this, elder abuse, financial exploitation. She's tough, she's smart, and she doesn't lose." I grabbed a pen. "What's her name?" "Martha Collins, elder law specialist." I wrote it down on the yellow legal pad. My hand was shaking, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was hope. "Letitia," Darlene said softly, "you're not alone anymore." For the first time in months, I believed it. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt ready. Martha Collins didn't look like a warrior. She was barely 5 feet tall, wore sensible flats, and spoke in a calm, measured voice. But when I laid out the evidence, her eyes turned to steel. Her office was in Raleigh, about an hour's drive from Charlotte. Darlene had made the appointment for me, told Martha the basics over the phone. When I walked in that Thursday morning, I was carrying a folder thick with documentation. Martha gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Mrs. Vaughn," she said, "tell me everything." So I did. I showed her the bank statements, the forged checks, the withdrawal patterns that went back 18 months, the photographs from the disposable camera, the timeline I'd created on my yellow legal pad. She didn't interrupt. She just listened, her eyes moving over each document, her face calm but focused. When I finished, she looked up at me. "This is textbook financial exploitation," she said, "and the dementia accusation, that's preemptive discrediting. She's building a narrative to protect herself in case you figure out what she's doing." Hearing someone else say it, someone who knew the law, someone who'd seen this before, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. "What do I do?" I asked. Martha pulled out a notepad. "We're going to do 4 things," she said. "First, we close every account she has access to, immediately, no warning. Second, you file a police report for elder financial abuse. Third, we rewrite your will with a neutral executor so she can't contest it later. Fourth, we secure your assets so she can't touch anything else." I felt my chest tighten. "She's my daughter." "I know," Martha said gently, "and this is hard. But protecting yourself isn't cruelty. It's survival." I thought about the way Veronica had looked at me when she called me confused, the coldness in her voice when she suggested I needed to be somewhere safe. Martha was right. This wasn't about punishing Veronica. This was about protecting myself. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." Martha nodded. She pulled out a business card and slid it across the desk. They ignored the warning signs and lost everything. Subscribe so you catch it before the damage spreads. "There's one more person you need to meet," she said. "A forensic accountant. Her name is Claire Yoshida. She specializes in tracking financial abuse. She'll find every dollar Veronica took, and she'll make sure a court sees it too." I took the card. My hands weren't shaking anymore. "How long will this take?" I asked. "Weeks," Martha said. "Maybe months, depending on how complicated the paper trail is. But Mrs. Vaughn, I want you to understand something. You're not starting from zero. You've already done the hardest part. You documented everything. You have proof. You have a case." I felt something loosen in my chest. Relief, validation, hope. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Of course." "Have you seen cases like this before?" Martha's expression softened. "More than I'd like to admit," she said. "Family members who exploit the people who love them most. It's one of the cruelest things I've ever seen. But I've also seen people like you, people who find their strength and take it back. If you've ever needed a legal shield, comment Fortress below. I left her office with a plan, a real, concrete plan. Veronica had no idea what was coming, and for the first time in months, I felt powerful. I walked into the bank on a Wednesday morning. I asked to close every account with Veronica's name on it. The manager hesitated. "Are you sure, Mrs. Vaughn?" I didn't blink. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The bank manager, A woman in her 40s named Priscilla led me to a private office. She pulled up my accounts on her computer screen. "These are joint accounts," she said carefully. "Your daughter has full access. If I close them, she won't be able to withdraw funds anymore." "That's the point," I said. Priscilla looked at me for a long moment. I could see her trying to decide if I was being coerced, if this was a mistake, if I understood what I was doing. "Mrs. Vaughn," she said gently, "is everything okay?" I met her eyes. "No," I said, "but it will be." She nodded slowly. "Okay, let's do this." It took 40 minutes to close 3 accounts and open one new one, a solo account at a different bank, one Veronica didn't even know existed. Priscilla was professional, efficient, kind. She didn't ask questions I didn't want to answer. When the paperwork was done, she handed me a receipt. "Your new account is active," she said, "and the old accounts are closed as of right now." I folded the receipt and put it in my purse. "Thank you," I said. She smiled. "You're welcome. And Mrs. Vaughn, I hope things get better." "They will," I said, because they would. I walked out of that bank feeling lighter than I had in months. The morning sun was bright. The air smelled like rain. I got in my car and sat there for a moment just breathing. Veronica's access to my money was gone. She couldn't take another dollar. Not now, not ever. I drove home and went straight to the garden. I pulled weeds. I watered the tomatoes. I let the dirt get under my fingernails. It felt good. Grounding, real. At 3:00 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Veronica. "Mom, my card isn't working. Can you check with the bank?" I stared at the message for a long moment. Part of me wanted to respond, to explain, to soften the blow. But I didn't. I turned off my phone and went back to the garden. Let Veronica panic. Let her wonder. Let her try to figure out what happened. The reckoning had begun, and this time I wasn't the one who was confused. 3 days later, Veronica stood in the kitchen doorway. Her voice was sharp. Her eyes were wild. "What did you do?" I was making tea. Chamomile, like always. I kept my back to her, watching the water boil. "I protected what's mine," I said calmly. "You closed the accounts." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. I turned around and looked at her. "Yes." Her face flushed red. "You can't do that. Those are our accounts. I use those accounts to pay your bills, to take care of you, to steal from me," I said. The words hung in the air. Veronica's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. "Mom, you're confused. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years," I said. "I know about the withdrawals. I know about the forged checks. I know about the $47,000 you took." Her face went pale. "I didn't. Don't lie to me." My voice was quiet, but it was steel. "I have proof. Bank statements, forged signatures, photographs, everything." Veronica stared at me. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Panic, maybe, or fear. But it disappeared just as quickly, replaced by something else. Tears. She started crying. Not loud, heaving sobs, just quiet tears that rolled down her cheeks. "Mom," she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Things were hard, and I needed help, and I didn't know how to ask." I'd seen this before. In court. Defendants who cried on the stand, who apologized, who claimed they didn't mean it. I'd watched judges and juries fall for it. I'd watched people get away with things because they knew how to perform remorse. But I wasn't a jury, and I wasn't falling for it. One boundary held saves a lifetime. If you're building yours, subscribe. You'll need the next step. "You're not sorry," I said. "You're sorry you got caught." Veronica's tears stopped, just like that. Her face hardened. "You're making a mistake," she said, her voice low and shaking. "One day you'll need me, and I won't be there." I met her eyes. "Maybe you're right," I said quietly. "But I'd rather be alone and at peace than surrounded and afraid." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Veronica turned and walked to the door. She grabbed her purse from the counter. "Fine," she said. You want to be alone?" "You got it." She slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. The glass shattered on the floor. I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the broken frame. It was a photo of Veronica as a little girl, smiling, holding my hand. I bent down and picked up the pieces. Then I threw them in the trash. I sat across from Officer Robert Hollins in a small interview room at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. I slid a manila folder across the table. "I need to file a report for elder financial abuse," I said, "and I have proof." Officer Hollins was in his mid-50s, gray at the temples, with tired eyes that had probably seen too much. He looked at the folder, then at me. "Mrs. Vaughn," he said, "can you walk me through what happened?" I did. I told him about Veronica moving back in 3 years ago, about the money that started disappearing, about the forged checks, about the gaslighting and the accusation that I was losing my mind. At first, I could tell he was skeptical. I've seen that look before, on the faces of attorneys, judges, social workers. The look that says, "Are you sure? Are you exaggerating? Is this really abuse? Or is this just a family dispute?" But then I opened the folder. I showed him the bank statements with the highlighted withdrawals, the forged checks with the side-by-side signature comparison, the photographs, the timeline. His expression changed. He leaned forward, reading carefully. He flipped through page after page, his jaw tightening. "Mrs. Vaughn," he said finally, "how long has this been going on?" 18 months, I said. "Maybe longer." "Those are just the transactions I could document." He wrote something down on a notepad. "And your daughter, Veronica, she had access to these accounts?" "Joint accounts," I said. "I added her name 3 years ago when she moved in. I thought it would make it easier for her to help me with bills." Officer Hollins nodded. "And these checks, you're certain you didn't sign them?" "I worked as a civil court clerk for 32 years, I said. "I know my own signature. Those aren't mine." He was quiet for a moment. Then he looked up at me. "Mrs. Vaughn, I'm going to file this report. I'm going to assign it a case number, and I'm going to forward this to our financial crimes unit, what your daughter did. This is a felony." Hearing him say it out loud made it real. A felony. Not a misunderstanding, not a mistake. A crime. "What happens next?" I asked. "The Financial Crimes Unit will investigate," he said. "They'll review your evidence, possibly subpoena additional bank records, and determine whether there's enough to press charges. That could take weeks, maybe months. But Mrs. Vaughn, you've done everything right. You documented everything. That's going to make their job a lot easier." Justice starts with a single report. Have you ever had to choose between family and truth? He handed me a copy of the report with the case number printed at the top. I folded it carefully and put it in my purse. Then Officer Hollins looked at me, his expression serious. "Mrs. Vaughn, I have to ask, are you safe at home?" I paused. The question hung in the air. I thought about the way Veronica had looked at me 3 days ago, the coldness behind the tears. "Not anymore," I said, "but I'm working on that." Martha Collins had one rule: never leave a weapon lying around for someone to use against you. So I rewrote my will. We met in her office on a Friday afternoon. She had already drafted the new will based on our previous conversation. All I had to do was review it and sign. "This names a trust company as your executor," Martha explained, pointing to a paragraph on page 2. "Not a family member, not a friend, a neutral third party who has a legal obligation to follow your wishes exactly as written." I nodded. "And this clause," she continued, moving to page 3, "specifically excludes Veronica from any inheritance due to documented financial abuse and exploitation." I stared at the words. Black ink on white paper. Final. Irreversible. Part of me felt grief. This was my daughter. The little girl I'd raised, the person I'd sacrificed everything for. But another part of me felt relief, because this wasn't about punishment. This was about protection. "If I don't do this," I said quietly, She'll try to take everything after I'm gone. Yes, Martha said, she will, and without this will, she might succeed. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. I signed my name on the last page. Letitia Vaughn. Clean, steady, unmistakable. Martha called in 2 witnesses. Paralegals from her office who didn't know me, didn't know Veronica, had no stake in this decision. They watched me sign. Then they signed as witnesses. Finally, a notary came in. She stamped the document, her seal pressing into the paper with a soft thud. That sound, final and irreversible, felt like freedom. This can't be contested, Martha said, placing the signed will in a fireproof safe behind her desk. Not with the police report and the forensic evidence. Your wishes are legally protected. I nodded. There's one more thing, Martha said gently. The will protects your assets after you're gone. But Mrs. Vaughn, what about now? What about your safety, your peace of mind? I looked at her. I have one final task left, I said. The hardest one. What's that? I have to leave. Martha didn't look surprised. She just nodded. Do you have somewhere to go? Yes, I said. Asheville. There's an assisted living community there, not because I need help, but because I want peace. Martha smiled. That sounds perfect. I stood up, shook her hand. Thank you, I said, for everything. You're welcome, Mrs. Vaughn, and remember, you're not running away. You're choosing yourself. I left her office with the case number in my purse, the will in a fireproof safe, and a plan in my heart. Veronica had taken 18 months of my money, but she wasn't taking one more day of my peace. I called a real estate agent on a Thursday morning. I want to sell my house, I said. How fast can we move? Her name was Janice. She sounded surprised but professional. Well, Mrs. Vaughn, it depends on the market and the condition of the property. Can I come by this afternoon to take a look? Yes, I said. Come at 2. She arrived right on time, carrying a leather folder and wearing a kind smile. She walked through every room, taking notes, nodding, asking questions about renovations and repairs. This is a beautiful home, she said when we finished the tour. Well-maintained, great location. I think we can list it this week and have showings by next weekend. Good, I said. Janice looked at me carefully. Mrs. Vaughn, can I ask? Are you sure about this? Selling a home is a big decision. Have you talked to your family? I'm sure, I said, and my family doesn't get a vote. She didn't push. She just nodded. 3 days later, there was a for sale sign in my front yard. I spent those 3 days sorting through 67 years of my life. What to keep, what to donate, what to throw away. I kept my mother's quilt, my father's watch, photo albums from when Veronica was little, back when she smiled at me with real love in her eyes. Everything else, I let go. I called a charity to pick up the furniture. I donated my kitchen dishes to the church. I sold my old books to a used bookstore downtown. The house started to empty. Room by room, memory by memory, Veronica found out about the sign on a Saturday morning. I heard her car screech into the driveway, heard the door slam, heard her footsteps stomping through the house. "What is this?" she shouted, waving her phone at me. Someone had sent her a photo of the for sale sign. I was folding clothes in the bedroom. I didn't stop. "I'm selling the house," I said calmly. "You can't do that. It's my house," I said. "My name on the deed. My choice." "Where are you going to live? What are you going to do?" I looked at her. "That's none of your concern." Her face turned red. "You're being ridiculous. You're acting like a child. You can't just run away because you're upset." "I'm not running away," I said. "I'm choosing peace." Delay one decision. Lose a decade of peace. Subscribe now. Don't let fear decide for you. Veronica stared at me, her mouth open, searching for words that wouldn't come. Then she turned and left. I heard her car door slam, heard the engine start, heard her drive away. The smell of cardboard filled the house, box after box, stacked in the hallway, labeled with black marker, the weight of a lifetime, packed and ready to go. 11 days later, I got a call from Janice. "Mrs. Vaughn, we have an offer. Cash, no contingencies. They want to close in 3 weeks." I didn't hesitate. "Accept it." That night, Veronica sent 17 text messages. I didn't read any of them. I was too busy planning my route to Asheville. Darlene came over the night before the move. They sat in the empty living room, 2 old friends on folding chairs, drinking tea from paper cups. The house echoed. All the furniture was gone. The walls looked bare without the pictures. Our voices bounced off the hardwood floors. "You really did it," Darlene said softly. "I really did," I said. We sat in silence for a moment, sipping our tea. It was chamomile, the same kind I'd been drinking the morning Veronica accused me of losing my mind. "Are you scared?" Darlene asked. "No," I said. "I'm not scared. I'm relieved." Darlene nodded. She understood. She always understood. "You know," she said, "when I first heard what Veronica was doing, I kept thinking, how could she? How could someone steal from their own mother? But then I realized people do terrible things when they think they can get away with it, when they think no one's watching. She thought I was weak," I said. "She thought I'd just accept it, let it happen." "But you didn't," Darlene said. "You fought back. You protected yourself. And Letitia, I'm so proud of you." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I felt tears building in my eyes. "You didn't abandon her," Darlene said gently. "You freed yourself. There's a difference." I nodded. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. "What if I'm wrong?" I whispered. "What if she really does change? What if one day she needs me and I'm not there?" Darlene reached over and took my hand. "Then she'll learn what you learned," she said, "that we're all responsible for our own choices, that consequences are real, that love without respect isn't love at all." I squeezed her hand. We finished our tea. We talked about the old days, Thursday night card games, Sunday church services, laughing until our stomachs hurt. We talked about the future, my new apartment in Asheville, her plans to visit in the spring. When it was time for her to leave, we stood at the door. The house was so quiet. "I'm going to miss you," I said. "I'm going to miss you too," Darlene said. "But you're doing the right thing. And I'll come visit. I promise." We hugged, a long, tight hug that said everything words couldn't. As Darlene walked to her car, she turned back one last time. "Letitia," she said, "you taught me something tonight. It's never too late to choose yourself." I smiled. For the first time in years, I believed it. Who's the one person who believed you when no one else did? Tag them below. I loaded the last box into my car at 6:00 a.m. I didn't look back at the house. I just drove. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky pink and orange. The streets were empty, quiet, peaceful. I drove through Charlotte one last time, past the courthouse where I'd worked for 32 years, past the church I used to attend every Sunday, past the grocery store, the bank, the library, past my old life. I thought about Veronica, about the little girl she used to be, the way she'd run to me when she scraped her knee, the way she'd hold my hand when she was scared, the way she used to say, "I love you, Mama," before bed every night. Where did that little girl go? When did love turn into theft? When did need turn into greed? When did I stop being her mother and start being her target? I didn't have answers. Maybe I never would. But I had something else now. I had freedom. I had peace. I had myself. The highway stretched out in front of me, trees on both sides, thick and green. The morning air was cool. I rolled down the windows and let it fill the car. I passed a sign, Asheville, 120 miles. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I glanced down. Another text from Veronica. I didn't read it. I pulled over to the side of the road, picked up the phone, opened the message. "Mom, please, we need to talk. I'm sorry, please don't do this." I stared at the words. Felt nothing. No anger, no guilt, no sadness, just nothing. I blocked the number, then I turned off the phone completely and put it in the glove compartment. I started the car again and kept driving. The smell of mountain air drifted through the windows, cooler and cleaner than Charlotte. Fresher, lighter. I took a deep breath. The woman who had spent 67 years being someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone's clerk, someone's caretaker, that woman was gone. In her place was someone new, someone free. I crossed into Asheville's city limits just before noon. The mountains rose up around me, tall and strong. The sky was bright blue. I exhaled. For the first time in 18 months, I felt like I could breathe. The assisted living community in Asheville wasn't what I expected. It was better. It was mine. The building was small, tucked into the hills, surrounded by trees. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't expensive, but it was clean, safe, and quiet. My apartment was on the second floor. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen, and a balcony that looked out over the mountains. I unpacked slowly, carefully. I hung my mother's quilt on the wall. I put my father's watch on the nightstand. I arranged my books on the shelf, the ones I'd kept, the ones that mattered. For the first time in my life, everything in this space was mine, chosen by me, kept by me, protected by me. The first week, I kept to myself. I ate meals in my apartment. I took walks alone. I wasn't ready to talk to people yet. I was still adjusting to the silence, the good kind of silence, the kind that felt like peace instead of loneliness. But slowly, I started to open up. There was Ruth, my neighbor across the hall. She was 73, a retired teacher with a laugh that could fill a room. She brought me homemade cookies on my second week and didn't ask any questions I didn't want to answer. There was George, a widower who played piano in the community room every evening. He invited me to join the weekly card game, Thursday nights, just like the old days with Darlene. There was Linda, who ran the book club. We read mysteries and thrillers, drank tea, and debated endings. I developed a routine. I woke with the sun. I made coffee. I sat on my balcony and watched the mountains turn gold in the morning light. I volunteered at the local library on Tuesdays. I walked through downtown Asheville on Wednesdays. I played cards on Thursdays. I read on my balcony every evening. Simple, quiet, mine. No one here knew about Veronica. No one knew about the theft, the forged checks, the police report. No one knew about the 18 months of fear and control. To them, I was just Letitia, a woman who liked books and tea and mountain views, and that was enough. This is what peace looks like. Hit like if you're rooting for me. One afternoon, 6 months after I moved in, I was at the farmer's market downtown. I was picking out tomatoes when I heard a voice behind me, sharp, angry, cruel. "You're so useless. I don't know why I even bring you anywhere." I turned around. A younger woman, maybe 40, was standing next to an older woman who looked about my age. The older woman's face was flushed with shame. Her hands were shaking. The younger woman kept going. "You can't do anything right. You're embarrassing me." I watched for a moment. My chest tightened. I knew that look on the older woman's face. I'd worn it myself not long ago. I walked over quietly. "Excuse me," I said softly to the older woman. "You deserve better than this." The younger woman glared at me. "Mind your own business." I didn't flinch. I reached into my purse and pulled out a card. Martha Collins' office number. I always carried a few, just in case. I handed it to the older woman. "Call her," I whispered. "You don't have to live like this." The older woman took the card. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes met mine. "Thank you," she whispered. I nodded. Then I walked away. 2 years have passed. I'm 69 now, and I have never been happier. My life in Asheville is simple, small, quiet, and I wouldn't change a single thing. I still live in the same apartment. I still volunteer at the library on Tuesdays. I still play cards with Ruth and George on Thursday nights. I still drink chamomile tea on my balcony every evening, watching the sun set behind the Blue Ridge Mountains. My savings, what's left of them after Veronica's theft, are protected now, managed carefully, enough to carry me through the rest of my life in comfort and peace. Darlene visits twice a year. We pick up right where we left off, like no time has passed at all. I don't talk about Veronica much, not because it hurts, but because she's not part of my story anymore. 3 months ago, a letter arrived. The return address was from Charlotte. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Veronica. I sat on my balcony with the envelope in my lap for a long time. Part of me was curious. Part of me wanted to know what she had to say after 2 years of silence. I opened it. The letter was short, vague, self-serving. Mom, I'm sorry for everything. I've been going through a hard time and I made mistakes. I hope you can forgive me. I miss you. I read it once, felt nothing, folded it back up and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, not because I was punishing her, but because I had nothing left to say. Forgiveness isn't something you give to someone who demands it. It's something you give to yourself when you're ready to let go. And I had already let go. You'll forget this lesson by next week. Subscribe so the next truth finds you when you need it most. Last month, I ran into the woman from the farmer's market, the one I'd given Martha Collins' card to. She recognized me immediately. I called her, she said, tears in her eyes. I filed a police report. I got a lawyer. I got out. Good, I said. I'm proud of you. You saved my life, she said. No, I said gently. You saved your own life. I just showed you it was possible. That's the thing I've learned in these 2 years. Strength isn't something someone gives you. It's something you find in yourself when you decide you're worth protecting. Tonight, I'm sitting on my balcony in Asheville, watching the sun set behind the Blue Ridge Mountains. The sky is streaked with pink and orange and gold. I have a cup of chamomile tea in my hand, the same kind I was holding the night Veronica accused me of losing my mind. But this time, the tea stays warm. I sip it slowly, savoring the quiet. I'm 69 years old. I'm alone. I'm free. And I have never felt more powerful. Life taught me that dignity is not given. It's claimed. That peace is not selfish. It's sacred. That boundaries are not cruelty. They're love. And that it's never, ever too late to choose yourself. I am simply Letitia, and that is everything.